Listening to Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal. So do appreciate you tuning in each and every single morning. Man, what a weekend. We have so much news to get to, and I'm very excited to provide you local news, state news, national news. We're going to have it all this morning. So I'm very excited to bring you conversations that happened over the weekend, some breaking news that happened over the weekend. So we're going to be getting right into it. So we are going to be talking a little bit later about trans inmates. Okay, so we know that we've had a transgender inmate in McLean County before, and at the time I talked with the sheriff, and I was assured that they were not being housed with the women, but this trans inmate, so this was Michelle Blessant, aka James Blessant, he was being housed by himself, and then he was later transferred, I think, to a Lincoln prison. So point is, trans inmates, aka men, because I never really see women pretending to be men in prisons. I only see men trying to get out of male prisons and trying to be housed with the women. So that tells me all I really need to know, too, about what this is really all about. It's about men trying to abuse women and trying to rape women and further criminalize or further possibly abuse women or people who are more vulnerable than they are biologically and physically. So trans inmates, they're horrified that they're going to have to be transferred now to male prisons where they belong, by the way, thanks to President Donald Trump's executive order. Oh no, the horror. Trans inmates, they're all upset because they have to be transferred to the prison in which they're supposed to be in. So we're going to talk a little bit about that, but I also want to talk about this Soros-funded district attorney. He's looking for state-level charges. This is in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. So the Soros-funded DA, what he wants to do is he's looking for state-level charges against the pardoned J6ers. So this can be a thing for also Joe Biden's pardons as well. I think that we should definitely go after Joe Biden as well. Joe Biden didn't pardon himself, which is hilarious. I think he could probably still go after Joe Biden federally, but that doesn't mean, the state can't go after some of the people he pardoned for crimes that they possibly could have committed. So yeah, or, Liz Cheney or people, members of the J6 Unselect Committee. You could go after them at a state level. So that's what this DA is doing. But here's the problem, folks. You can't just look for charges. You can't start investigating a person if there is no crime that's been committed. Okay, so this is what the Soros-funded district attorney is doing in that state. He has just said, screw it to innocent until proven guilty, which is the fabric of our justice system, innocent until proven guilty. And he's decided that he's just going to look and investigate these individuals, these J6ers of the Philadelphia area or the Pennsylvania area. And what he's going to do is find the crime, and then there is no crime that's committed, but what he's going to do is, presume that they're guilty and go after these individuals and make them guilty and find things on them. So we're going to get to that. Plus, soy boy Harry Sisson, he made this video, I guess, or he thinks this video of Kamala Harris. Now, she was out in public and she was doing this PR stunt, okay? She was out in public and it's really just a PR stunt. It was not like authentic in any kind of way. It was definitely planned that they were going to go into this grocery store and film themselves looking like average Joes, okay? And that was her whole entire campaign. Let's try to get the American people to believe that I'm a middle-class citizen, which is totally fabricated. She's not middle class. She comes from a very, very wealthy part in Canada, and her parents are both Ivy Leagues, both have incredible jobs. She's not middle class, okay? And so she's out in public in this video, and Harry Sisson claims that this is proof that America screwed up badly because we elected Donald Trump, who, is a billionaire and not like you and I, which is just so tired. Like, actually come up with a good PR, like good public relations campaign, okay, Kamala, but this whole like fake filming yourself out in public and acting like a middle-class citizen, I'm not buying it. And the reason why Donald Trump does so well is he never does that, okay? He goes to McDonald's and it's clearly staged, and he's not pretending to be a middle class person. He did the grocery trip thing where he goes to a grocery store, but he winds up paying for this woman's groceries. He's never acted like he's middle class ever. And, it's authentic. Kamala Harris is not middle class, but yet she pretends to be like you and me. All right. So Corey Byrne, I want to start there. This is local news. This happened over the weekend, a whole mess of things here. And I want to get into it because we've been called fake news, obviously, by the government paid radio, by members of the community. And really, at the heart of this, people didn't like that we amplified Corey Byrne's post on our social media page. You can go find us on Facebook, like the page, follow us. People didn't like that because we exposed, not really, I mean, he put it out there himself, Corey Byrne, a sitting county board member, on his official county board social media page. He had talked about an alleged conversation, which now Sheriff Matt Lane has confirmed that they had, but he talked about a conversation where the two of them apparently talked about school raids and federal authorities coming in and, performing school raids, I guess. And we saw Corey Byrne's post, and all we did, our original post, we referred to the school raids that Corey Byrne had referred to in his post as deportation initiatives. So Corey Byrne claimed that McLean County Sheriff Matt Lane, who's a Republican, Corey Byrne is a Democrat, he claimed that he had a private conversation with Corey Byrne about school raids and how he wouldn't assist federal authorities in deportation initiatives that include school raids. Okay, now here's where it gets so confusing, because you read how Corey Byrne in his post, and I'm just going to read straight up from his post right now, on his McLean County Board District 10, okay, he serves District 10, Corey Byrne does, he says, "There is a well-justified and growing concern about potential immigration raids in our county. The news that schools and places of worship, among others, are acceptable places to conduct raids is reprehensible and awful." Now, that is fake news. The federal authorities have no plans to raid schools or places of worship, okay, unless there are public safety threats, okay? So if somebody is harboring an illegal alien inside of a school, then you should, with a criminal illegal alien, that is the deportation initiatives being carried out by federal authorities right now. Everybody arrested up to this point, sexual offenders, you're looking at murderers, you're looking at rapists. These are the worst of the worst, okay? That's what we're talking about with these federal deportation initiatives, okay? So it's fake news to even say that the schools and the places of worship are going to be raided. He says, quote, "I've spoken to Matt Lane, McLean County Sheriff." He goes as far as to tag him in this post. "He assured me that the sheriff's office will not assist ICE in conducting raids on schools." So at this point, what we did, Cities 92.9, right? We shared Corey Byrne's post, and we said, McLean County board member Corey Byrne claims McLean County Sheriff will not be assisting federal authorities in deportation initiatives. We will not. Cities 92.9. I am not going to allow for the spread of misinformation that school raids are happening in the state of Illinois or any state that is not part of the federal deportation initiatives. So we vaguely said that, hey, Corey Byrne claims McLean County Sheriff Matt Lane will not be assisting claims. Okay, look up the definition of a claim. We did not say that it was true, that Matt Lane was not going to be participating in federal authorities' initiatives, deportation initiatives. We attributed our information to Corey Byrne's post, and He's claiming that McLean County Sheriff Matt Lane would not be assisting federal authorities in deportation initiatives. We called it deportation initiatives because it was unclear what Corey Byrne was talking about, because school raids, like I said, are not happening. We are not going in. The federal government, the Trump administration, ICE, they're not going in and they're not seizing children. That has never happened under this administration, and it probably never will. Okay, so this is a hypothetical, I guess, that they were talking about, the county sheriff and this county board member. Okay, and this is all being said in his official capacity. Okay, so we also shared that State Representative John Cabello, law enforcement officer, explained the Trust Act, because Corey Byrne, on top of talking about this alleged conversation that they had, which has now been confirmed, it's no longer a alleged conversation because Sheriff Matt Lane has confirmed that he did talk with Corey Byrne about conducting raids in local schools and how he wouldn't be assisting federal authorities in that. Okay, so it's still not a lie to say that McLean County Sheriff Matt Lane is not going to be assisting federal authorities when it comes to deportation initiatives, if those deportation initiatives include school raids. Okay, that's not a lie. He's not going to be assisting in some deportation initiatives. But we're talking about deportation initiatives that don't exist. That's why this is so troubling for the community, and why I think you guys really saw this and you were shocked to hear, one, that your sheriff and your county board member were having a conversation not open with the public, just having a conversation with the two of them behind closed doors about an issue such as this, which is so important because it affects your public safety, right? And it affects your safety. To be having this conversation behind closed doors, one, it lacks transparency. Two, I think people were confused because you guys were having a conversation about deportation initiatives that don't exist currently. So we said in our post, State Representative John Cabello, law enforcement, explained the Trust Act does not apply when an illegal immigrant commits a criminal act, like entering through an illegal port of entry. So you just being an illegal immigrant is grounds for federal authorities to deport you. Okay, that's grounds for that. And the Trust Act does not apply if you went through an illegal port of entry. Okay, or if you commit murder, or if you commit sex crimes, rape, whatever it may be. So Corey goes on, he says, I appreciate the conversation and the assurance and look forward to continuing with the Sheriff Lane and his team of professionals as we navigate this new challenge. Federal agencies generally lack manpower and local knowledge to conduct raids on their own and rely on local law enforcement. Illinois has a law known as the Trust Act. Okay, so this is what Corey Byrne. So this subliminal messaging really is, he was crafting this, and it was very, smart of him to craft it this way, because he talks about the Trust Act, and, a lot of members of the community, you were concerned that Sheriff Matt Lane wasn't going to do anything because he was citing the Trust Act like several other police departments have done. But the Trust Act generally prohibits local law enforcement from participating in immigration enforcement, which is just total baloney. Yes, if the immigration enforcement is civil, like if there's no criminal act. Now, if you've entered the country illegally, if you've committed murder, if you've raped people, yes, we are going to be going after you, and the Trust Act does not apply. That's what the federal authority, you have to work with the federal authorities because it supersedes, federal law supersedes state law in that sense, and it's constitutional that it supersedes and precedes your federal citizenship over your state level counterpart, okay? So he goes on in the post, Trust Act generally prohibits local law enforcement participating in immigration enforcement. That said, an agency can choose to participate under certain circumstances if requested by the federal agencies. So he talks about how he's a teacher and how, there's supposed to be a safe place of safety. Schools are supposed to be a place of safety, community, and discovery. Racist fear-mongering has turned them into places of fear for many of our children. Okay, no. These are children. One, they shouldn't even really be understanding. And I fear that teachers in these school districts are now going to be trying to stoke fear into the children, thinking that the president of the United States is going to seize them from their classroom. That's not going to be happening. Now, and here's another thing. Even if, hypothetically, like I said, it's not happening, they were conducting school raids, most likely what would be going on is, okay, we just arrested your mommy and daddy. They're illegal immigrants. We have to deport you, illegal immigrant child, with your mom and dad. Tom Homan has said he will not separate children from their parents, and he will deport the children with their parents. Okay, so that is the most humane way to go about deportation. If you're deporting mommy and daddy, you gotta go get the kid and deport the kid as well. Okay, Tom Homan has said, we're just gonna deport the children with mom and dad. Doesn't that make sense, right? Wouldn't you want that? And that's what we're talking about here, but we're not even there yet. Federal authorities are not carrying out deportation initiatives that include school raids or deporting children at this point. We're going after criminals. That's what the federal authorities are doing. They're going after criminals, criminal records on top of being an illegal alien. Okay, so we're not talking about children here. Okay. So it was just a very misleading post. We shared it. We said that, according to Corey Byrne, okay, Matt Lane would not be assisting federal authorities in deportation initiatives. Of course, Matt Lane came out with a statement. I'll get to his statement here on the other side. You're listening to Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9, the news and talk Bloomington Normal. Oh, him? Yeah. Hey, I appreciate you tuning in. Yeah, it's just absolutely ridiculous. I mean, the accusations of us being fake news because we amplified or shared with our listeners the post that Corey Byrne, a sitting county board member, had made. And the accusations, really what this all comes from is people didn't like that we had shared out what Corey Byrne had posted because they wanted to have this private conversation, and Corey wanted to virtue signal and not be held accountable for this private conversation that they had or answer to that private conversation. And to be fair with you, I don't think that Sheriff Matt Lane really wanted to talk about their private conversation. Otherwise, he probably would have made a post first talking about their conversation. And I really think that this was an opportunity for Corey Byrne to virtue signal. And talk about how racist our president is, which is absolutely just bonkers, and it's so confusing for the members of the community, for our sheriff to be having a private conversation with a county board member about hypothetical federal authority or federal deportation initiatives. Okay, these are not real deportation initiatives. So you can understand the confusion of the public. And they were like, okay, what did you talk about? Because we know that school raids aren't happening. We know that Donald Trump and ICE and Tom Homan are not deporting kids or seizing kids. So what was the conversation? Or did you talk about deportation initiatives as a whole? Did you talk about, not assisting in all? Now, of course, we know that DeKalb, they went a little bit further than McLean County, and they are also not they are also not assisting federal authorities in deportation initiatives. Now, in DeKalb, they, on top of not doing school raids, they don't want to assist at all. Okay, so DeKalb went a little bit further than McLean County, but both McLean County and DeKalb Police Department have said that they're not going to be assisting federal authorities with certain deportation initiatives. Okay, now McLean County said that they're not going to be, and I'm going to get to this statement from Sheriff Matt Lane, where he talks about, hey, we're just not going in and we're not going to be seizing the children. Okay, and McLean County is doing that, whereas DeKalb, they're doing that on top of all of the other deportation initiatives, like the public threats to safety or whatever. They're just blanket refusing to assist federal agencies. So, it's not a lie to say McLean County, because hypothetically, if the federal authorities ever decide to include school raids in their deportation initiatives, or if that's something that they're going to include in their mass deportation operation, McLean County is not assisting in that. So it's not a lie to say that they're not assisting federal authorities in deportation initiatives, because that's true. They will not be assisting when it comes to, I guess, seizing children, hypothetically, if that were to ever happen. So claims by the McLean County board member regarding the sheriff's involvement in deportation initiatives such as ICE, allowing ICE into schools, were followed by a statement clarifying. Sheriff Matt Lane said that he and no one from his office has stated that they would refuse to assist federal agencies. Lane confirmed that he would not send in deputies to seize children. The Trump administration has said their mass deportation operation is not exclusively, but primarily public safety threats. Okay. So the only reason why you'd probably be going into a school, and I would imagine, and it's almost safer for the children, for these federal authorities to be going in and finding the children, deporting them with their families. Okay. That's the only situation if you're deporting mom and dad, but that isn't even happening right now. They're deporting criminals. Now, unless a criminal, say an illegal alien criminal who's been murdering, raping, thieving, right? These criminals who also happen to be illegal aliens, because they're starting with them first. There's plenty of those types of people for them to keep themselves busy for quite some time, the federal authorities. Now, unless those individuals have children, I would imagine that they'd go grab the children and then deport the children along with the parent, but the parent probably is going to be deported to a federal or like a prison in their homeland. Okay. So they would probably deport the child to, an agency. So say Mexico, we have something called DCFS. I bet Mexico has something for children, like a fostering system where the government takes in the child, children whose parents, wind up being murderers and rapists, right? So, and go to prison. So that's the only reason why I would think that ICE agents would be going into schools. Hasn't happened yet, because I don't think that there's a ton of criminals out there who have children in the school system. Now, if mommy and daddy are illegal, okay, which I'd imagine is step 2 or 3 of their deportation initiatives. If mommy and daddy are illegal, what's going to wind up happening is probably they're going to go into the school, take the kid into custody, and deport the child with mom and dad, because why separate the children? Okay. You're going to deport mom and dad and you're not going to deport the child with them. That's probably not something we want. And why would you, this is a controlled environment. It's probably the safest place to go collect the child and bring the child to mom and dad. Whereas, it could get violent. Dad could get violent if you go to their home. Try to deport all of them. It probably is a safe bet to go in and deport the child with mom and dad out of school. So we're going to get to Sheriff Matt Lane's statement now. Hey, good morning. You're listening to Conservative Cat Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal. Yes, we've been called fake news. I'm not bothered by it at all, because people have always done that for years now. The reason why we're being called fake news is because we referred to Corey Burns' social media post where he said that he had this alleged conversation. He claimed that he had a conversation with the sheriff. That has now been confirmed via statement by Sheriff Matt Lane, which we will get to here in just a second. But he spoke with Sheriff Matt Lane, and he assured me that he's not going to be assisting ICE in conducting raids on local schools. This sparked involvement from the community, and that's what good journalism does. That's what good reporting does. We said, hey, Corey Byrne, the county board member in his official capacity, by the way, claims McLean County Sheriff Matt Lane will not be assisting federal authorities in deportation initiatives. Now, we said deportation initiatives very deliberately as to be careful to not mislead the public into believing that school raids are happening. Okay, school raids are not happening. The federal authorities, that is not part of Trump's mass deportation operation as of yet. Maybe it will be. And honestly, if you ask me, and here's my complete opinion, I think McLean County should be assisting in allowing ICE agents and assisting ICE to go in and deport illegal immigrant children. with their parents. Okay, that's what we're talking about. Tom Homan has said it since day one that he's not going to be separating children from their parents. We're not going to be deporting, because that's not how the U.S. operates, mom and dad, and then we leave the child alone in the school system, okay, and at the hands of DCFS and in the foster system. We're not doing that. We're going to collect the child. We're going to also deport them with mom and dad when we deport them and they're illegal, okay? Illegal. If they've entered through an illegal port of entry, they're here in this country. We're going to deport mom and dad, but we're also going to deport the children in the school system, okay? Which there are plenty of scenarios, but we're not even talking about that right now. And that's why there was so much confusion from the public when we had just really reported on what Corey Byrne had said in his official social media post as McLean County Board District 10 county board, county board member, okay? People were confused because they know, the public knows that the school raids are not happening and people are not seizing, ICE agents are not going into schools and seizing children. There was a fake news article that had suggested that ICE agents went into the school. 2 ICE agents went into a Chicago school, Chicago public school. And it came out later that they weren't actually ICE agents, that they were Secret Service agents, I guess. And that was actually fake news. We referred to the school raids as deportation initiatives because we were not going to mislead the public into believing that there are school raids going on or that that's part of the Trump administration's agenda with this mass deportation initiative. As of right now, who knows? Maybe they do add that later to where they've got to collect the children after they've decided to deport not mom and dad. Okay, so here's the statement. So claims made by McLean County Board member Corey Byrne regarding the sheriff's involvement in deportation initiatives, such as allowing ICE into schools and doing school raids, right, were followed by a statement, okay, clarifying Sheriff Matt Lane said he and no one from his office has stated that they would refuse to assist federal agencies. Lane confirmed that he would not send deputies to seize children. The Trump administration, like I said, their mass deportation operation primarily, but not exclusively, focuses on public safety threats. So not exclusively means, okay, mom and dad might not have a criminal record like murdering and raping people, but, and they might not be, public safety threats per se, but they are here in this country illegally, and we are going to deport them because that's federal law. Okay, so earlier this week, so far, primarily it's focusing on public safety threats, but it's not exclusive to public safety threats. Mom and dad who, walked over the border and, have a little house, send their kid to school in a sanctuary state. They're not public safety threats, but they are here illegally, and carrying out a deportation operation on those individuals are not out of the question. Okay, that's what the Trump administration's policy is. But right now they're focusing on the worst of the worst. Okay, we're at phase 1 right now. Phase 2, phase 3. We're gonna get to mom and dad who sends their illegal alien to school, their illegal alien child to school. We're going to get to those in about phase 3, okay? But we're on phase 1 right now. So earlier this week, there were arrests made in Illinois, Utah, Minnesota, New York, Florida, Maryland, and all of these aliens had criminal records. Okay, so here's Sheriff Matt Lane's statement. Here we go. It has come to my attention that there are concerns expressed about what my position is regarding immigration. It is true that I do not intend to send deputies into schools to seize children. At no point have I or anyone from my office stated that we will refuse to assist federal agents or agencies on operations involving criminal matters and threats to public safety. I am aware of federal and state laws that will be driving the enforcement action from my office. Simply put, the McLean County Sheriff's Office will be enforcing the law. I would encourage and expect news outlets or anyone seeking my position what my position is or isn't on a particular subject to go straight to the source and not draw their own conclusions. Number one, we reported on what Corey Byrne had posted in his official capacity. We said that he had claimed that he had a conversation about how, Matt Lane would not be assisting federal authorities. Okay, ICE. Okay, that is just what Corey Byrne had said. Now, he says that he's not, in this statement, he and nobody from his office ever said that he would refuse to assist federal agencies. Okay, so it's still a little confusing because I don't understand how, if you're not going to be sending deputies in to see children, probably from your local enforcement, I don't know if that necessarily means if ICE isn't going to be sent in, or if you're not going to allow ICE to be sent into these schools to deport children. You just said that you're not going to be sending deputies in to see children. So point is, I think that Corey Byrne had maybe gotten a little too excited about their conversation. He wanted to virtue signal about their conversation, took to social media. People were upset because we reported on a public post made by an elected official, ... But really, I mean, end of the day, this is a weird conversation that happened between Matt Lane, the sheriff, and Corey Byrne, because they were talking about school raids, which aren't happening, by the way, and not a part of the federal authorities' deportation mission. And it's just, it's so bonkers. It's so bizarre. Like I said, there are several law enforcement agencies who have put it out that they are not going to be helping federal agencies or federal authorities conduct deportation initiatives, and part of their deportation initiatives, taking out criminals. This is just a wonky conversation. And here's my conclusion here. I think it's always best for elected officials to not be talking with each other behind closed doors. Perhaps, have a conversation with the public about it, hold an open forum, get public input, and, this whole idea that there are ICE agents that are going to be going in and seizing children, it's just not true. That's not true. And, the media is going to try to get you to believe that, but we will not amplify the lie that there are school raids happening and that ICE agents are going into schools and seizing children. That is fear mongering. And so that's what happened over the weekend, I guess. We amplified just one post of the county board member, the sitting county board member, in his official capacity. We reported on it, and we were deemed fake news because we reported on the fake news we reported on the misleading information that the county board member was posting on his official social media account. All right, I got to shift gears. We're going to come back. We're going to talk a little bit about Unit 5. They handed out instructions. Pretty much all Illinois schools have done this for if ICE shows up. This is all fear-mongering by the Illinois Teachers Association, the Illinois School Board of Education, right? They're all trying to fear-monger into getting teachers and children to believe that ICE agents are going to break down the door and start ripping children from their classrooms. Okay, you need a judicial warrant. The judicial warrant probably would be, hey, we got to go talk to, little Juan, little Jose, or whoever, because his mom and dad are here illegally and we have to deport them. So we do have to go collect little Jose because we don't want Jose to be alone here in the United States all by himself. Okay, we're deporting mom and dad, so we have to deport the children with the parents. Okay, but we're not even talking about that right now. If the federal authorities wind up adding that to their deportation initiatives, then it would make sense for Corey Byrne and McLean County Sheriff Matt Lane to have a conversation about, initiatives that are carried out in the school. But to have a conversation about it right now, it's confusing because we're talking about something that's not real or happening. So we're going to be back. We're going to talk about Unit 5 because I guess Unit 5 issued some sort of statement or email memo regarding what you need to do when ICE shows up. Well, guess what? ICE will never show up because that's not what they're doing. All right, I'm going to be right back. You're listening to Conservative Cat. Okay, good morning. So do appreciate you tuning in. Go ahead and smash that like button. Share this out with your friends. All the confusion and misinformation as Pritzker's doing, yes, because, there's Trust Act. People are confused. Okay, so the state law says this. The federal law says this. What do we follow? Number one, federal law and the Constitution, your federal citizenship supersedes. If you look at the 14th Amendment, it actually was crafted because the southern states tried to say that the freed black slaves were not citizens. Okay, so they tried to take citizenship and like at a state level. The states wanted to decide that the free slaves were not citizens. Okay. And the 14th Amendment clarifies, hey, no, actually, that's up to the federal government, that your federal citizenship precedes and supersedes your state level counterpart. So you can reside in a state and have citizenship in your state, but your federal citizenship supersedes and precedes your state level counterpart. Okay. So, just rule of thumb, like when it comes to immigration, 14th Amendment is pretty clear on this kind of stuff. The Constitution, right? We have to remain sovereign as a nation. We have immigration laws, federal laws. Federal laws should supersede any kind of trust act, the state law, but also the Trust Act. They had to craft that pretty carefully because, you can't trample all over federal laws with that, okay? Or trample all over the Constitution with that and be unconstitutional about it. So what the Trust Act really is all about is immigration enforcement. So say somebody overstays, well, I guess not even then. Say, there's this green card, okay? And the federal authorities, somebody has like a green card or a work visa, let's say a work visa, okay? And they work at Rivian and they have a work visa, okay? Now the federal authorities know that this individual, let's just give this individual who works at Rivian a name, Maria, okay? Maria works at Rivian, she has a work visa, okay? And the federal authorities are coming over here and questioning her about her work visa. Now, she is a legal temporary citizen because she's here legally. She's documented, okay? She's a documented immigrant, okay? So she's in this country, not illegally, but she's documented. Now, there's a scenario in which, the federal authorities could be coming and saying, hey, Maria, she filled out her paperwork, but she didn't cross a T on her paperwork here. Can you pull in Maria and, ask her to come into the station here, and we want to ask her some questions about her work visa. Okay. Now, the state, via the Trust Act, cannot cooperate and are not allowed to assist with federal authorities when it comes to that kind of issue. Okay. Because ultimately the work visas, that kind of stuff, that's all federal and that's their job. Okay. Issuing the work visas. And honestly, when you look at it like that, the Trust Act ain't all that bad, right? Because it's kind of unfair for the federal government to come in and be like, okay, local government, we want you to pull in Maria and we want to, ask her some questions about her work visa. That's kind of unfair. That's kind of your job. That's not my job. You're, using public resources, local taxpayer dollars, and we have to go send out an officer to Maria's house, collect her, bring her into the station. That's not something that we should be doing. We're not agents of the federal government, and you can't make us agents of the federal government. Okay, that's what the Trust Act is really all about. We're not talking about people who enter through an illegal port of entry. We're not talking about people who commit heinous crimes like murder, rape. We're talking about, in the Trust Act, people who, are here on a work visa and the federal government has questions about their work visa or their green card, or maybe even the authenticity of their green card. Okay. So for example, say, I think you get a green card when you're married to somebody here in the United States, and after so many years, you can get a green card or something. I'm not exactly sure how all of that works, but, the authenticity of your marriage, that is, something that the ICE agents and the federal authorities have to verify. Okay. And to kind of, how do I say this? To try to get the local authorities to do your job in verifying the authenticity of that marriage. That's what the Trust Act kind of prohibits. Okay, so like we're talking about documented immigrants in the Trust Act. We're not talking about people who commit an illegal act like entering through the southern border, an illegal port of entry, and swimming over the border. Okay, we're not talking about those people in the Trust Act. Okay, that's very important. The state law doesn't even say that federal authorities cannot, or that local and law enforcement cannot assist federal authorities in deportations of illegal immigrants. It can't, because that's unconstitutional and it's against federal law, and that state law would have never even upheld, or it wouldn't have made it through. It wouldn't have made it through if it's against federal law. Okay, you have to pass laws that are within the confines of federal law. So yeah, we're back. Hey, good morning. Go ahead and find me on social media. Smash that like button, share this out with your friends. Yes, people have said we're fake news, because we simply reported on Corey Burns' Facebook post. And they're like, well, why didn't you reach out to Sheriff Matt Lane? Why didn't you reach out to Corey Burns? Within hours after we'd posted about Corey Burns' post on social media, where he vaguely describes this conversation about immigration with Sheriff Matt Lane. Okay, they had a conversation about how he's not going to assist ICE agents when it comes to school raids. That, of course, is going to cause confusion with the public. We simply reported on what Corey Burns had said on social media. Within hours, Matt Lane followed up with a statement. So when both parties kind of have a statement, is there a need to follow up? Number two, we were simply reporting on what Corey Burns had said. Okay, that was what we had reported on. And you know, it was within hours. The sheriff had put out a statement about the conversation that he and Corey Burns had. So it's still a little confusing, I won't lie, what the sheriff's position is really on immigration, because he talks about how he's not going to be sending in deputies. So does that mean ICE agents are going to be allowed to go into schools? I don't know. He just said, I will not be sending in deputies to probably assist ICE agents who go into these schools, but will he allow ICE agents into the schools, or are they going to, you know, refuse to help in that capacity? I don't know. It's just really, it's so messed up, because at the end of the day, what happened, you have elected officials having a private conversation about something that affects you. And really what should have happened was, you know, they should be on top of, hey, you know, ICE agents, if they're coming to McLean County, here's what we're going to do. And there should have been a statement prior to having a conversation about Corey Burns with hypotheticals, right? Hypothetical situations in which ICE agents may or may not come in and raid schools, which I don't think that they are going to. That's not part of their initiatives as of right now, their deportation operation as of right now. No schools have been raided, which brings me to Unit 5, of course. They issued they issued like instructions, I guess, what to do if an ICE agent shows up. So Corey Burns, our lovely county board member, he got it on social media, and he says, we got an email from our school district's attorney about what to do if armed ICE agents, I love it, the fear-mongering, armed ICE agents. First of all, like I said, if this were to happen, here's how it would probably go down. Mom and dad are getting deported. ICE agents come into the school with a warrant to go talk to little Jose about how mom and dad are illegal, and hey, we're going to take you to mom and dad. They're being deported today. Okay. And we're going to keep you with mom and dad, and we're going to deport the children with their parents. Okay. That is what we're going to be talking about here. Not armed ICE agents going in and gunning down children in elementary schools. Give me a break. So this is what Corey Burns says. I'm slightly relieved that the implementation of those supposed policies are coming from incompetent blowhards whose fascism is exceeded only by their ignorance. But here we are. I'm slightly relieved that they are coming from incompetent blowhards whose fascism is exceeded by only their. I mean, this is insane. He's going off about how these policies that don't exist are coming from incompetent blowhards. So I'd imagine Donald Trump and Tom Homan, whose fascism is exceeded by only by their ignorance. So their fascism is at a greater level than their ignorance. Okay. Enforcing federal law. Is that fascism? Enforcing the law on the books that says, hey, you can't enter through an illegal port of entry. Don't know if that's fascism. I think that's constitutional and preserving the sovereignty of our nation, but whatever. So Byrne must not know that the administration is currently only picking up criminal illegals. That's what we're talking about here. We're in like phase 1. Maybe we get to phase 2 or 3, where Trump and Tom Homan start to deport Mama Maria and Papa Jose, or Papa Juan and little Jose. Okay, a family of illegal immigrants who crossed the border through an illegal port of entry. They're going to get deported too. Now, that's not inhumane. Okay, they came across the country illegally through an illegal port of entry. That is what happens to illegal aliens, is deportation. Okay, so they knew the consequences. That's why a lot of these individuals, those families, they're actually self-deporting at this point. Okay, so I don't think Unit 5 is harboring a bunch of criminal kids. Now, that's possible. So say a 15-year-old Venezuelan gang member in the Chicago public school system, then I could see where they're going into, the Chicago public school to grab a Venezuelan gang member who's at the age of 15, 16. But I don't think that the Venezuelan gang members are attending school. So I don't think that there's a ton of them in Unit 5 either. I would imagine that's more so a case in like Chicago, where you've got these gang members, the Venezuelan gang members. But I don't think Unit 5 is harboring criminal kids. But in a follow-up post, he claims that some kids are already not attending. Okay, so a lot of these illegal alien kids probably are not attending because their parents are self-deporting. They know that they came through an illegal port of entry. They know that they are on the list for deportation eventually, and that they're going to be targeted eventually. We're not there yet. We're only going after criminal aliens, so criminal illegals, so people who have committed crimes on top of entering the country illegally. Now, these criminals are self-deporting the illegal aliens who haven't committed things like murder and rape and all of these things. They're self-deporting because they know what they did was wrong, and they're going back home to avoid deportation. Okay, so I think it's interesting that you've got Corey Byrne. He obviously wants us to pay taxpayer-funded education for illegal immigrant children. And, I don't understand why blue states want to keep illegals. I really don't understand that because illegals, if you came through an illegal port of entry, you're straining a system that you don't contribute to, and that you're not, like illegal aliens. I mean, you can't work anywhere, right? Most job applications still have here, even in the state of Illinois, are you a citizen or not? And, a lot of the illegal aliens, they work under the table, cash, right? They pay for cash for a lot of things. I actually spoke with Katie O'Brien, who was kidnapped by a DACA recipient, Gabriel Calixto. And she explained how, at that time, his parents were illegal, and he was DACA, right? His parents were illegal, but his parents paid for the house in cash, okay? So in a world where you're tracked and traced, it's not fair that you have illegals who, come and go, pay for cash. They're not tracked or traced in any kind of way. And, I don't know why we would want illegal aliens putting a strain on our American system and using taxpayer dollars for things like education, getting a public education, when they don't contribute via taxes. Okay, so according to BLN News, Unit 5 has over 1,000 students in English as their second language. So that would mean, their first language is perhaps Spanish. I'm not saying that there's 1,000 illegal immigrant children in Unit 5, but you do with that information as you will. 1,000 students who speak English as a second language, not their first language. Okay, so that suggests to me that perhaps they came from somewhere else. Perhaps they are here illegally, or at least mommy and daddy brought them here illegally. Okay, so we're going to get to Unit 5's memo here in just a little bit, but you're listening to Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9. Sorry, your paid vacation is over. Time to go back home and go to prison, right? So that's why they're, self-deporting, because when you're here in the country illegally, that's a criminal act. And they want to avoid the deportation process because through the deportation process, there's charges. Okay, you've entered the country illegally, there's federal charges. So, it would be smart, and my recommendation, I mean, they're evading criminal charges, and I guess I wouldn't be pro that, but I mean, if you are mom and dad, you entered through the country illegally through an illegal port of entry. My recommendation would be, yeah, get out of here and self-deport, because you're going to wind up with criminal charges and they will force you to leave. So it's probably better if you just go back home. Okay. Your paid vacation with all of the free health care that you get here in the state of Illinois, with the free public education that you get, the housing in many cases, free legal services to try to obtain, citizenship. All of these things you don't get anymore under the Trump administration. So we're going to be right back. Smash that like button and share this out with your friends. Woohoo! At the top of the hour, we're going to be sharing Unit 5's memo, but also we do want to talk about it in executive order that Donald Trump just signed that, is horrifying trans inmates, because they're going to be having to serve their time in male prisons. Thank you, President Donald Trump. Yes, men should be serving in men's prisons. We're going to get to all of that here next on Conservative Cat Cities 92.9. Find me on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Rumble. Woohoo! Welcome to the Red Kingdom. You're listening to Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9, the news and talk Bloomington Normal. We've got so much to get to this morning, and I'm so excited to talk with you about Harry Sisson. Yes, soy boy Harry Sisson. He thinks that this video of Kamala Harris shopping is proof that America screwed up so badly when they elected Donald Trump. Give me a break. This is so tired, Kamala. You and your PR stunts trying to act like you're a middle-class kid. Like, stop. We all know that you are not middle class. You came from one of the wealthiest suburbs in Canada, and both your parents are Ivy League, and they make hundreds upon hundreds of thousands of dollars. Like, give me a break. And it's just so tired. Come up with a different campaign strategy, okay, Kamala? All right. Also, in case you wanted to keep up with Kamala Harris, you can go to kamalaharris.com. In case you were missing her, she has launched a website where you can keep up to date with all things Kamala Harris. Before we took the break, I was telling you about Unit 5. They issued this memo for teachers, school leaders on what they should do if ICE agents show up to their school. Now, number one, there are no school raids happening. There is not a scenario where ICE agents will be coming in and seizing children, okay? As of right now, we're like in phase 1 of the deportation operation, and we're talking about criminal aliens so far, only criminal aliens. So on top of the crime of being an illegal alien, where you've entered through the country in a legal port of entry, you haven't obtained an H-1B visa, work visa, green card. There's a million different ways for you to be in the country, documented and legal, like temporary legal status, okay? There's a million ways because we are the coolest country on earth, and there's a million ways for you to be in the country legally, and all of these people probably skirted those processes because they couldn't pass the background checks or the necessary checks and balances or checks for you to actually be in the country legally. So they decided to go through an illegal port of entry, okay, and skirt that whole entire system because they disrespect our federal immigration laws, okay, and they've gone through an illegal port of entry. We're talking about, on top of that crime of going through an illegal port of entry, you've also murdered somebody, killed somebody, or killed somebody. You've raped somebody. You've committed theft. All kinds of heinous crimes. That is where we're at right now as far as the deportation initiatives go. These school raids are completely hypothetical and not real, okay? And later, and I hope that the Trump administration does this, where they go into these schools, take the children who are legal, unite them with their family, and deport the illegal families together, because there are definitely situations where you have mom, dad. I've met illegal immigrants who have come over the border and they've carried their young children, swam across the border, and entered through an illegal port of entry and are here panhandling on the sides of the streets. The best thing for them to do at this point is to go home and self-deport, essentially, because now if you go through a deportation process, you're going to have a criminal record, because guess what? Entering through an illegal port of entry is criminal. Okay, so here is Unit 5's memo, and this just bothers me. Students have a right to an equal education. Wrong. Nobody has a right to education. Okay, here's a very, very easy way to figure out if it's a right or not. Okay, is somebody else providing you that right? Okay, so teachers obviously provide you education. Somebody has to provide you an education or teach you. Okay, so it's not a right if somebody else has to be forced to do it. Okay, so forced to give you an education, healthcare, provide you healthcare, housing, somebody has to give you housing, build the house. It requires somebody's efforts and labors. If it requires somebody else's efforts and labors, that's not a right, okay? Nobody has, not even myself as an American citizen, has a right to an education, okay? There is no right to education. If I want an education, I can go get an education. Okay, there are no rights to housing, healthcare, and education. This is a lie by the left, and it's on purpose, because what you actually have: life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. If somebody infringes on those are your rights. You have the right to life. So abortion or killing somebody, that's wrong, and you have the right to live. That's why murder is illegal, and that's why abortion should be illegal at a federal level, but that's whatever. Okay, right to life, liberty, freedom. Nobody has the right to lock you down and force you to stay confined unless you break laws, right? You have a right to life, liberty, freedom, and the pursuit of happiness. Okay, so unless you infringe on other people's rights, you have the right to liberty. Okay, the right to life, and like they say that students have the right to equal education regardless of their immigration status or the immigration status of their parents. So they're saying that education is a human right here. Education is not a human right. Okay, there are rights laid out and endowed by a creator: life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That's it. It's a civil rights violation under the Illinois Human Rights Act, unconstitutional for school employees to discriminate against or engage in harassment towards a student based on students' actual or perceived race, color, or national origin. Okay, yeah, okay, it is to discriminate against, their race. But like, what if that child is an illegal immigrant? Okay, if they're an illegal immigrant, that's not discriminating against their color. That's discriminating, not even discriminating. That's just the facts of the matter here is that they're illegal and that they need to leave. Okay, so they need to leave with mom and dad. Okay, there's nothing inhumane about ICE agents getting into a school. And we're talking about a hypothetical here because this isn't even happening. There's nothing wrong. I would love for it to happen. I would want phase 3 to be done right now. I want illegal children to be taken out of the school system, stop robbing the taxpayers, and to be deported with mom and dad. Okay, that is the best way to go home. Now, the best way for these, families to go about this would probably be to self-deport, to be honest with you, because then they're not going to have a criminal record. Now, should they be evading criminal charges? No, but the best thing for them and their family is to self-deport and to leave the country, so that way they don't wind up with a criminal rap sheet. Okay. So there's so much more. Both federal and state law prohibit the disclosure of student records or information, except to parents or guardians of the student. I don't think ICE is going to go in there and ask for student records. Like, I don't think ICE agents really care if the kid is passing English or passing mathematics. I think that they care whether they're illegal immigrants or not. And I think that they want to unite the children with their families and deport the families together. Because that's the most humane way to go about this process. Okay. Staff should not release any student records or student information to ICE or any other outside federal, state, or local agency without prior approval from the district administration. Okay, so yes, you should cooperate with, I guess, your superintendent, your school council, the general counsel here, and that's who released this memo. It was Kurt Richardson. If you're a teacher, right, and I don't think if I were a teacher in the school district, would know the difference between an ICE agent and somebody posing as an ICE agent, right? So of course you're going to consult your district attorney and your bosses. This is a lot for teachers, to be honest with you. Like, they should be focused on teaching kids how to read, write, and do math. Because they're not very good at it, the kids in the public school system, by the way. They should be focused on that, not this whole policing, what I should do when an ICE agent shows up. Like, this is just bogus. We know that they're going to have judicial warrants if the ICE agents have to go in and talk to children or take children into custody and reunite them with their families and deport them together. We know that if that were to happen, it's not happening yet. I couldn't be any more clearer on that. We know that the ICE agent is not going to go and rip them from their classroom in front of their teacher. It's a judicial warrant. It's going to be presented to the attorney of the school district, and they're going to say, hey, we have a judicial warrant and we need little Jose because Maria and Juan are illegal and they need to go and all be deported as a family together. We don't want to separate them. Okay, so that's what we're talking about here. Here's another part of the memo. If you receive a request for student records or student information, notify your building administrator. Should ICE or any other federal, state, or local agency seek to interview or detain students at school, please ask them to remain in the office and notify your building administration immediately. Like, they're not going to get into the school building. Have you ever tried to get into a school building, just yourself as a civilian? Like, there's a buzzer, there's doors that are locked. Like, I don't think that they're going to be dropping in from the ceiling like, a movie where they're like CIA agents like coming in and they're dressed in all black like ninjas and they're going to be snatching children. Like, give me a break. This is ridiculous. Of course, they're going to go through the building's administration and go through, the person who's in operation of the building. Okay. And hopefully, we have local law enforcement who will cooperate with federal authorities and get them in touch with those school buildings administrators and work with the local enforcement on that. And the local enforcement can chat with the school building administrators and say, hey, these ICE agents are going to detain little Jose because Jose is going to be deported with his mommy and daddy. Hopefully that's the conversation that happens where our local law enforcement is the one, because it is, federal. I think it would be helpful if your, friendly face sheriff walked in and said, hey, this is a ICE agent, John, and he has to come in and detain little Jose because he is going to be deported with mommy and daddy now. I hope that that's how this goes down. I don't know. It's a little bit unclear. I know that McLean County's deputies will not be going into the schools to seize children because he's made that clear, the sheriff. So I don't know if he's going to allow ICE agents to do that. We'll have to see. Hopefully we can get into contact with him and really try to prick his brain on what he's going to do in these situations if they arise. But we're not even really there yet. So is there even really a need to be talking about this right now? We're talking about criminal aliens are the target of this mass deportation operation. There are no criminal aliens in schools, okay? I highly doubt that little 7-year-old Jose murdered somebody, okay? So the federal immigration has the federal government has immigration responsibility. The federal constitutional powers, like I said, they precede state law. And, the whole point of the 14th Amendment, it was because states thought that they knew everything. The southern states thought that they knew what was best, and they wanted to deem the freed black slaves non-citizens. Okay, and they thought they had citizenship powers where they could decide who's a citizen and who's not. Okay, and the states don't have that power. Okay, your federal citizenship status supersedes and precedes your state level counterpart, and the states have no say in whether you're a citizen or not. Okay, so I don't know what ICE would want with student records. I don't think that they're going to be asking for student records. What this is, it's fear mongering. This memo is straight up fear mongering, trying to get teachers, trying to get school leaders to think that ICE agents are going to be dropping in through the ceiling on cables and seizing children. That's not going to be happening. Okay. All right. I got to shift gears. We're going to talk about trans inmates. How they're all horrified that they've got to be transferred to male prisons now. Hilarious that you're, horrified by that. You have to be housed in a male facility when you're a male. Oh no, the horror. Thank you, President Donald Trump, for that executive order, saving women everywhere. We're going to also get to the Soros-funded district attorney who thinks that it's okay to go after J6ers who, are innocent until proven guilty. He thinks that they're guilty, and he's going to try to do everything he can to prove that they're guilty. Okay. So we're going to talk about the Soros district attorney who's looking for state level charges against the pardoned J6ers. We're going to get to that here in just a second. You're listening to Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9. Yeah, we need to hold these NGOs and politicians accountable while we're at it. Yeah, so what happens is these NGOs, they provide, free legal services, free health care. The politicians, they all voted on this, despite knowing that they came through an illegal port of entry. Okay. And that's not cool. That's harboring, that's aiding criminals. Okay, if you've gone through an illegal port of entry, so that means you're not you're not on an H-1B, you're not on a work visa, you're not on a green card, you don't have any of these multiple channels in which we offer immigrants to go through in order to gain access to the country. If you haven't gone through those multiple channels in which we provide, most countries don't do that, by the way. The United States is kind of an outlier. We have a really cool immigration system where you can seek asylum, you can have an asylum claim, you can be here on a work visa, you can be here on a student visa, green card. There's so many different avenues for you to become a citizen. There's quite literally zero excuse for you to go through an illegal port of entry, like literally none. Yeah, it's a shame that these politicians and these NGOs have aided and harbored illegal aliens all this time and provided them taxpayer dollars, like billions of dollars going to illegal aliens here in the state of Illinois. I'll be right back. You're listening to Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9. Whoa. Good morning. Hey, you're listening to Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal. Yes, we talked about how McLean County Board member Corey Byrne claimed that McLean County Sheriff Matt Lane was not going to be assisting federal authorities, ICE agents, in deportation initiatives. In his post, he said school raids. Okay, Corey Byrne had said school raids. We chose in our post to refer to those school raids as deportation initiatives and keep it vague because it's unclear what the sheriff and Corey Byrne were talking about until, Sheriff Matt Lane came out with a follow-up statement and, it was clear that they talked about school raids because school raids are not part of the federal authorities' mass deportation operation. They have not conducted school raids. So it was unclear what deportation initiatives they were actually talking about because school raids are not a part of the deportation initiatives that ICE are conducting. Okay, so we had posted all of this and follow-up statement by the sheriff came out after we had posted. Simply, we reported on the claims made by Corey Byrne about this conversation that they had, this alleged conversation that the sheriff and county board member Corey Byrne had, the sheriff, Matt Lane. The claims made by McLean County Board member Corey Byrne regarding the sheriff's involvement in these deportation initiatives, school raids, are deportation initiatives, by the way, were followed by a statement clarifying Matt Lane said that he and no one from his office stated that they wouldn't refuse to assist federal agencies. He confirmed that he would not send in deputies to seize children. Nobody's taught, nobody, this is what's so confusing about all of this. Nobody has said that there are federal initiatives to deport children as of right now. We're talking about criminal illegal aliens. So here's the statement from Sheriff Matt Lane. He says, "It's true that I do not intend to send deputies into schools to seize children. At no point in time have I or anyone from my office stated that we'd refuse to assist federal agencies on operations involving criminal matters and threats to public safety." Okay, so that doesn't mean that Sheriff Matt Lane is not going to allow federal agents, ICE agents, into schools. Okay, he said that he's not going to be sending in deputies to seize children, but perhaps he's going to allow federal agents to go into schools and deport children if that ever comes to that. Okay, and like I said, the only hypothetical situation, because we're not there yet, that's not part of the mass deportation operation as of yet. The only reason why ICE agents would probably go in is because they need to deport children with their families, and he was careful in his wording here. He says involving criminal matters. It is a criminal matter, and I would imagine he'd assist federal agencies, ICE, in criminal matters. It is a criminal matter when you have, mom and dad are criminals, illegal port of entry. Okay, they're illegal aliens. And hey, let's assist the federal authorities in deporting the child with mom and dad so that way they're not separated. Okay. So he says, I am aware of federal and state laws that will be driving the enforcement action from my office. Simply put, the McLean County Sheriff's Office will be enforcing the law. I encourage and expect news outlets or anyone seeking my position on this particular subject to go straight to the source and not draw their own conclusions. We didn't draw any conclusions. We simply reported on what Corey Byrne had said on his official McLean County Board District 10 web, his Facebook page. Okay, this was an official capacity where he talked about how he said Matt Lane had assured him that the sheriff's department was not going to assist ICE in conducting raids on local schools. We simply reported on what Corey Byrne had stated. He's an elected official. He serves in an official capacity, and he said this in his official capacity. He even went as far as to tag the sheriff. So there you have it, folks. We do want to shift gears. Let's talk about the trans inmates. They're going to be forced to, be housed with men. The men are going to be forced to be housed with men in prisons. Oh no, the tragedy. So here we go. Trans inmates are panicking as Trump's new executive order will house them in prisons according to their sex, okay? As it was for the majority of history, right? This is how it's taken place, okay? And but considering that these people want special privileges, that's what the trans ideology is all about. You want special privileges, you want special so-called rights, right? And despite being involved in federal crimes, these people believe that they have a right to female-only spaces. These men who have been convicted of heinous crimes, and then they come out and say that, oh, I'm actually trans, I want to be housed in female-only spaces. According to Daily Mail, now lawyers are desperately trying to find a way to fight the order. Yeah, saying that prisoners will have targets on their backs as they move to these hardened male inmates, move in with these hardened male inmates. Yes. So a lot of what, and I'm just going to be honest with you, a lot of these trans inmates, they have they're kitty diddlers. They are disgusting molesters, and traditionally those people in male prisons don't do so well. Okay, that's just the way it goes when you have prisoners. You know, I know that people who run prisons and operate prisons, they do their best, but point is, if you're a child molester, you're a convicted child molester, you're going to have a hard go at it. And here's what's been going on. The child molesters have been using the trans ideology to get out of serving their time with men who will beat them up in prison for being a child molester. Okay. So that's what's going on here. According to the Daily Mail, it's going to be incredibly dangerous, says one attorney, Marora Meltzer Cohen. Okay, so she's an attorney, probably representing one of these trans inmates. She represents Donna Langen, a transgender woman, so a man, who underwent a sex change in federal prison. We probably paid for it. She's serving a life sentence for bank robbery and is also a member of neo-Nazi Aryan Republican Army. Okay, so a neo-Nazi. Okay, so this woman is representing a neo-Nazi. Had a sex change in the federal prison. The fact that the left is defending neo-Nazis under the guise of trans rights is astonishing, especially because they label anyone who disagrees with them as a fascist. Okay, anybody who disagrees with a leftist, like, you are a fascist according to them, but the left will go out of their way to defend neo-Nazis. This actually happened at one point, and I'll look this up. It was Sharon Chung, John Sandage. When John Sandage was the county sheriff, there was back and forth about, inmates and the treatment of inmates in the prison. And apparently she was communicating with people with white supremacist tattoos about their treatment in the prison, and they were trying to say that they weren't being treated correctly in the McLean County Jail. I toured the jail actually with the sheriff at the time. Jail was nice. I mean, it quite literally looked like some of my college campus classrooms. Like, they had classrooms, they had TVs. It was so nice in there, and I was just like, okay, the treatment of the inmates, you gotta be kidding me. This is like a state-of-the-art prison. Okay, and it looks better than some of my college classrooms did at ISU. So anyway, they at the time, she was defending white supremacists and taking the side of white supremacists who said that they were being treated poorly in the prison. Like, this is what the left does all the time. They are so beholden to this. They blindly follow this political ideology despite it being incorrect. It's morally incorrect. And they'll do anything to defend, the special privileges of trans people, even if those people are the worst members of society. And they want to chip away at women's rights and give these people special privileges at the expense of women's rights. So, calling, this is the embodiment of, I guess, progressive priorities, and they prioritize trans ideology above all else at the expense of women's rights. And even if it means defending a heinous criminal, somebody accused of heinous crimes. Okay. So this attorney, Meltzer Cohen, said that she fears that there's going to be a bloodbath if her client and other trans inmates are forced in male prisons. Now, this is a case where he committed a bank robbery, but guess what, folks? He's also a neo-Nazi. Okay, so neo-Nazis also don't tend to do well in prison. So yes, it would make sense why this person probably lied and went as far as to getting a sex change, lied about their, gender status in order to be housed with females. They went that far because they didn't want to die. Okay, being a neo-Nazi in prison, probably not the safest. Being a child molester in prison, probably not the safest option. But it sounds like a personal issue to me. You're a man. You need to be You need to be in the male prison, and the order declared that the government will only recognize two sexes. Okay, so there's been an order now, executive order. We only declare the male and female. Okay, and this means all intimate spaces designed for women's, girls, and females will be determined by sex rather than gender identity. Okay, you can identify as whatever way you want, but we're not going to recognize gender identity. We're going to go off sex. And these spaces designated for females, well, they're going to be for females. And here's the thing, I don't think that these people really care about the safety and the fear of women. This man is going into a female prison, but these narcissists, they don't really care about anybody but themselves. Clearly, the transgender people, the people representing the transgender people, they don't care how, this man being in a female space might affect the women, might scare the women, might jeopardize the safety of the women. They don't care about that because they're narcissists. All they care about is me, and my gender identity and my special rights, right? Foolish lawyers are fighting this right now. They're fighting to uplift the trans patriarchy, and they're doing so. And at the same time, they are uplifting a member of neo-Nazism, quite literally. Okay, so this is just ridiculous. National policy recognizes two genders. The status quo here is no longer on their side. Like, the status quo is to believe two genders as it is national policy, and that is the status quo. Like, culturally, there is a shift that has happened. It is not normal to recognize multiple genders. I don't even think if you were to ask a leftist, next time a leftist asks you to put pronouns in your bio, or, says that, hey, it's our policy, you have to refer to, your coworker as a she, but clearly he's a he, he's sporting a full beard. What you need to say is, okay, can you name other genders? Like, give me another gender besides men, women. Like, obviously it doesn't even make sense because men trying to be women, they know that there's only two genders, men and women. Otherwise, they wouldn't have changed to the woman. Okay, they know there's only two genders. So, yeah, I mean, this is a great executive order. I do want to shift gears. We are going to be talking about a Soros-funded DA who's refusing to prosecute violent offenders and instead using up his time to go after the J6ers who were pardoned. So we're going to get to that here in just a little bit. You're listening to Conservative Cat. Hey, go ahead, smash that like button, share this out with your friends. If the illegal is paying rent, paying property tax, paying for their school, nothing is free for anyone. Okay, so you're saying if the illegal alien. So you've entered through an illegal port of entry, you've enrolled your child into school, you are paying rent, so therefore you're kind of paying property taxes, which you're not really, because if you're paying rent, you're just paying your landlord who's paying those property taxes for you, okay? So you're not really paying taxes. So yeah, your landlord, you're providing money and your landlord is paying it. So it's not even really you because you don't own it, you're renting, okay? Not saying that renters don't pay property taxes, I guess. Not really. You pay, but you pay it like it's through third party. So I mean, that's a bit of a stretch to say, but even so, citizenship isn't determined on whether or not you pay taxes, okay? Now, what you get out of the system for what you put in is kind of ridiculous. You probably couldn't own a home. I know a lot of illegal immigrants who pay, cash for homes, and they do it all under the table, right? And you kind of skirt a lot of the processes in which you would, pay income taxes, right? You get paid under the table. You don't pay the income taxes you should be paying that I pay, right? So in your check, my check, what happens every month is a good chunk of it comes out because of income taxes. A lot of these people are paid under the table because it's illegal to hire illegal immigrants. That's why there's a box that says, are you a U.S. citizen or not, when you have a job application, okay? You have to disclose that to your employer, because they cannot harbor an illegal alien via employment, okay? So that's the law. But yeah, that's kind of like a roundabout way. But taxes don't determine your citizenship, okay? The 14th Amendment is pretty clear. There's 2 criteria to your citizenship. You have to be born or naturalized in the United States. So there is a naturalization process. And we're talking about people like, isn't it so annoying when you have somebody at your job? Dan, I don't know if you have somebody at your job who, despite like maybe coming into work 10 minutes late every single day, not showing up to meetings, never working a weekend, leaving early around 3 o'clock every day. Like, isn't that so annoying when you have a coworker like that? Okay. What we're talking about is these people, like, don't even put the bare minimum amount of effort in. They will not go through legal channels. Okay. There are multiple of them. There's multiple ways for you to be considered a great employee. Okay. You show up to work on time, you come to work, you work hard, you work weekend maybe once or twice, you are got a good attitude, right? There's all of these different criteria to what makes a good worker, a good employee. Now, there's all kinds of criteria that you can choose from to make you a good person, in the sense that you come to the country and you go through a legal channel. Okay, there's multiple ways. I mean, you could seek asylum, you could get an H-1B, you could get another kind of work visa, student visa. There's all kinds of different ways for naturalization process if you actually want to be considered a United States citizen. But these people have done everything in their power, much like, this coworker that doesn't do anything. They didn't do anything to come to the United States, yet they're reaping all of the rewards, like going to school and receiving an education, like obtaining free housing that actually happened in northeastern state. And now I'm forgetting the name of it, but $2,000 a month is what American citizens had to pay, and these illegal citizens, so people who did not even have documentation, okay, at all, they are illegal. Undocumented is illegal. Okay, you're an illegal immigrant. You went through an illegal port of entry, and you didn't even try to get on a work visa or student visa or anything like that. Okay. But to reap the benefits, I mean, that pisses you off, right? Doesn't that piss you off when your coworker gets employee of the month, but yet hasn't showed up to work on time ever? That should piss you off, okay? And doesn't it piss you off when people skirted all of these different avenues and channels to be considered a temporary status citizen or a documented status, or have documented status? They skirted all of that, and they decided to go through an illegal port of entry, but yet they reap all of the benefits that undocumented, and that's why you are documented immigrants have and citizens have. That's why a lot of these documented citizens, so your H-1Bs, your student visas, your green card holders, your naturalized citizens, people who went through the naturalization process, they don't like illegal immigration. They think it's bad because it gives not only them a bad name, but it also spits in the face of all of the work that they did to get documented. And they don't like illegal immigration either. So, which is why Trump did very well amongst the Hispanic community. Hey, good morning. I so do appreciate you tuning in each and every single morning. We are going to be talking a little bit about a George Soros-funded DA. His name is Larry Krasner. He is the Philadelphia district attorney, and he's refusing to really prosecute violent criminals. What he's decided to do is go after people who were pardoned for January 6th at a state level. Okay, so he's going to try to prosecute them at a state level. Take a listen.
But I can tell you, having spent 25 years of my career as a trial lawyer in federal court, 30 years as a trial lawyer in state court before I became DA, where we still operate in both, that there's a path here. I'm not giving away the whole playbook to the other side, but there's a path here for local prosecutors to look to see whether people who unjustly got a get out of jail free card for really serious conduct can be further prosecuted for things they may have done before or after January 6th within their own jurisdictions that have not already been prosecuted.
Well, let's talk about what exactly you mean. So let's say there's a Philadelphian who drove down to DC and there is hard evidence that this person engaged in the Capitol riot and physically assaulted a police officer. Where is your jurisdiction in that? If his crimes were committed in Washington, D.C. on federal prosecutor, where does the Philadelphia district attorney have a right to charge that person?
The focus for most state prosecutors should be what happened within their jurisdiction. It's not what happened on January 6th. It might be what happened in October or in November that has not been prosecuted and occurred within the jurisdiction. Texting, phone calls, emails, reservations for transportation or for hotel. Conspiratorial activity could give rise to a local charge, meaning a state charge of criminal conspiracy, illegal use of communications facilities, firearms charges. Let's remember there were caches of weapons, improper use of money, threats, things of that sort. I think what we all have to do, for those of us who are concerned about the most serious offenders here who have gotten a get out of jail free card from a president who has 34 felony convictions, I think we have to look at all the conduct that occurred before and after that was not specifically occurring in DC on January 6th.
Okay. So there you have it. This is the George Soros-funded DA. And, you know, he's looking for crimes. And, you know, typically in our justice system, what's supposed to happen is somebody commits a crime and then you investigate. You don't investigate until you find a crime. And that's what he's talking about here. He wants to investigate people until he finds a crime. And that is not it's called innocent until proven guilty. Okay. And this is exactly why Trump pardoned all of these people, is because they weaponized the Justice Department. They investigated these people and investigated until they found a crime. They were looking for a crime. It's supposed to be you committed a crime, then you do an investigation. That's not what happened here. They investigated people until they found enough dirt on these people to try to cobble together some sort of charges. According to the post-millennial progressive Philadelphia District Attorney Larry Krasner has announced that he's looking into filing charges against area January 6 defendants whom Donald Trump has already pardoned. Trump issued a pardon order his first day in office. Progressive Philadelphia District Attorney Larry Krasner has announced that he's filing these charges, and that he Democrats said that he said that he is investigating if assaults on police or conspiracies involving groups such as the Oath Keepers and Proud Boys might fall outside the scope of federal charges, and suggested that some actions, including technology to commit crimes, violating state conspiracy laws. So he said, bus tickets, coordinating with people on like rides to get to DC if they had gone with, some friends in Philadelphia, like a few J6ers from Philadelphia went together. They're going to try to, and they were texting back and forth. They're going to try to go after their text messages. And like I said, you don't investigate a person in hopes of uncovering a crime. Okay, that's not how our justice system was ever intended to work. You don't investigate somebody until you find the crime. This is clearly a violation of human rights. It's abysmal. It's an injustice. This is injustice. This is just a weaponization of our government, of the Philadelphia government. I mean, this is crazy. You've got prosecutors. They should only be investigating someone if they committed a crime. Okay, we're talking about somebody here who doesn't have any evidence of them committing a crime at a state level, but what he's going to do is launch investigations into people who haven't committed crimes in that state, and he's not aware of those crimes, okay? So according to the Heritage Foundation, Krasner's office refuses to prosecute many crimes, including serious ones, in the name of social justice, murders, rape, things like that, theft. And it turns out that also in the name of social justice, he wants to infringe on people's rights, okay? In the name of social justice, what he wants to do is infringe on the rights of Americans for reasons that will never be logically explained. He is searching for crimes. Okay, he's investigating until he finds a crime. That's not how it goes. This is an abuse of power, an extreme abuse of power. I'm going to take a quick break, but you're listening to Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9. Good morning. Hey, you're listening to Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9, the news and talk Bloomington Normal. Yes, I did want to get to this. You would think that Kamala Harris would give it a rest with this whole like fake joy, considering she lost the election. And this whole fake joy, I'm middle class thing did not win her the election. So you'd think she'd cut it out, okay? But she filmed yet another PR stunt at the grocery store. And I mean, the point of this kind of remains unclear. I'm not too sure if she's, running again in 2028. To me, it kind of looks like she could possibly be making a run because they created this little stunt of her in the grocery store. And she filmed herself trying to look like, middle class with her and Doug. Harry Sisson, he got on social media, of course, and he says, here's Kamala Harris and Doug Emhoff shopping in California. Has Donald Trump ever entered a grocery store and bought his own groceries? Probably not. America, we screwed up badly. Okay, so take a listen to this. Here we go. This is, you can hear the cameras. You can see it. Where Doug Emhoff and Kamala Harris, they're approached by people and they want, pictures with Kamala Harris. This is clearly staged. She's in this dark hat where she's like, out in public and she doesn't want to be recognized and she's paying for these groceries. Like, come on, give me a break. This is clearly fake. But and I'm not saying that Trump hasn't done PR stunts in grocery stores because he has. And there's a significant difference, okay? Firstly, Doug and Kamala, they filmed themselves doing this. This is clearly staged. And Trump, he orchestrated himself in the grocery store. It was a PR stunt and it was very, very clear. But he also did something, kind of off the cuff. He actually paid for this single mom's groceries, on the campaign trail he was on in the grocery store. He doesn't pretend to be like middle class like Kamala Harris. And he actually whips out some cash and he says, hey, here's some cash. Pay for your groceries here. Okay. And take a listen to this. Here we go. This is Trump on his campaign trail.
Here, it's going to go down a little bit. It just went down $100. We'll do that for you from the White House, all right?
Thank you.
All right, bye. Nice seeing you, everybody. Beautiful.
We'll do that for you from the White House. We're going to bring down grocery prices. Okay, so Harry Sisson claims that Trump has never bought groceries. We can confirm that he has bought groceries for somebody else and for struggling Americans. This woman who, was looking at the ticker here at the grocery store and saw it keep going up and up and up. And that was his PR stunt. Kamala Harris's PR stunt is just not genuine. She bought her own groceries. Like, we're not, come on. You don't expect me to believe that she actually went grocery shopping without this being like a PR stunt. She hasn't learned anything, folks. Okay. Secondly, this is so cringy. This is very cringy. Now, I can't decide if it's cringier than the video where she, tried to buy fake Doritos at this gas station. Like, she tried to fake buying Doritos at this gas station on the campaign trail. But everything Kamala Harris does, Trump does it better. He actually worked at McDonald's longer than she did. So, I don't know. Maybe she's taking a run at 2028, but she's California's problem now. And she's doing this despite her national loss. You guys have a blessed rest of your day. Bye-bye. Love you. We'll do it all over again tomorrow morning, bright and early at 6 a.m. Be blessed, and we'll talk soon. All right. You guys go ahead and have a great rest of your day. Smash that like button. Share this out with your friends. We'll be back tomorrow morning for The Daily Show.